We are live. Welcome to a special edition of the CK Podcast / post-game show. I'm your host, Leo Bias, and today we got my guy, Anthony Colombo from Pistons Talk, the hottest Pistons page on Instagram. That's right. If y'all ain't following them, you better do it now because they are legit. My boy keeps it real. He's not biased, even though he's a Pistons guy. Because I was making fun of not of him, but just of their play-by-play like older gentlemen. And he was like, you're right. I was like, damn, bro. I watched an entire game and I was irritated by the end of the night. How you doing, bro?
I'm great. Shout out to George Blaha, by the way. I mean, man's been doing it for 40 years, and he calls every dunk a windmill dunk. So, God bless him.
So, what is it about him that he feels like it's not time to retire? Because honestly, father time never fails, even in this profession.
Yeah.
So what do you think it is? Like, does he have something against the ownership? Is it just his tenure? Or
I think he just loves it. I don't think he's tired. I mean, like, sometimes he'll think Josh Jackson is Wayne Ellington. I don't know if the monitor's, like, really small or maybe he can't see. But, I mean, like, just among, like, Detroit fans, like, he's a legend. Like, people just love him. He's been around probably since the Bad Boy era, so he's seen it all.
Yeah, he has. He has seen it all, man. And a little bit like Grant Napier, right? Where a lot of people like Grant, the play-by-play, not so much the personality off of the play-by-play because of certain stuff that happened. But we get it. It's more of a nostalgia. You grew up listening to this guy, and you have a special place for it in his heart. But do you feel like his play-by-play hasn't transitioned to this new era of basketball where it could help the broadcast improve a lot more?
I think from watching the Pistons be so bad over the years, he's just kind of numb. He's like numb to it because you could go back just like on YouTube, from like 2004 to 2008. Man, he was energetic as hell.
Okay.
Like now he's just like windmill dunk.
Oh my God.
So I've met him before. I've talked to him before. Like he's a really nice guy. But
nice.
I know Johnny Kane, who's probably going to replace him down the line. I mean, he's been at Fox Sports for God, I don't even know how long. So he's probably going to take over when George wants to hang up his boots and retire. So
right on. So as you may know, in the entire NBA universe, knew that the Kings were on a 9-game losing streak. Would have been a franchise record of 10 if they would have given up this game against the Pistons, who are missing a lot of key players. One is their rookie, who I personally wasn't that impressed with, but I was very high on him coming into the draft, and we'll get into that. The whole Tyrese, his agent not wanting to really work out with you guys, right? And then some of the biggest takeaways from tonight's game. But first and foremost, what were your initial impressions of the Kings?
I was surprised when I heard the broadcast say they've lost 9 straight games.
Yeah.
I was like, no way. And then I was kind of looking at their schedule. I was like, okay, I can kind of see it. And then I completely forgot Luke Walton was still your head coach. And I was like, okay, now it makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely makes sense.
No doubt, man. It's been tough here in Sacramento. Fans want Luke out. But my biggest nightmare, and I've said this on multiple occasions, is he gets fired, Alvin Gentry takes over, and they start winning games, and they somehow, get the 10 seed, get a play in it, and they make the playoffs, and now you're forced to keep Alvin, right? Where that could be the worst thing that could happen to the Kings long-term wise. My thing is, I started saying this about 2-3 days ago. I think the Kings should go after Juwan Howard from Michigan. Respected NBA player, right, in his time, and he's doing a great job with that program. He's young blood, probably with new philosophies. Not to say that Luke isn't old, but 4 years too many. I feel like where he hasn't proven enough growth, in my opinion, to continue with this organization. And obviously frustrations are boiling high with Kings fans in itself. And someone just said, Kings subreddit must be so mad that they won, obviously because a lot of the fan base, they want the Kings to tank. When in reality, you told me this, like if you were a Kings fans and you didn't make the playoffs in 15 years, you don't want to make the playoffs, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember, I'm not even a Kings fan, but I remember, the Mike Bibby days, Peja Stojakovic, man, they had a squad. Like you
Right.
guys probably want to experience that type of like atmosphere again. Like,
No.
yeah, tanking is okay, but when you're in the lottery every damn year and you
Yeah.
just miss on draft picks, it's not a good look.
Y'all got two top 7 picks right now with Dennis Smith and Josh Jackson. I was
Mhm.
impressed with Josh Jackson. I let me say that again. I've been impressed with Josh Jackson and his development as a player. He showed some signs with Memphis. Y'all, was it via trade or was it free agency?
Free agency.
Okay, so he signed with you guys and he's been pleasantly surprised. Uh, I like him. I was very low on him. He was the guy that I said was going to be more of like the bust potential out of the top 5 guys. I think I was right. Well, Markel's showed signs, but I think I've been right on that prediction. But now it's seeming like it's kind of the opposite, where Josh is beginning to pick up his career, resurrecting it little by little with you guys. He has the opportunity to do it. He's nice. He's athletic. He can score, especially on that layup towards the end of the game where he just split Holmes and I forget who else. It was in transition, and that was such a good move, right?
Man, he is such a threat in transition. It's insane. Like there, it's probably at least 4 or 5 highlights a game.
Yep.
He doesn't care about his body. He'll
Mm-hmm.
just fly into somebody. And you mentioned Rashawn Holmes, man. He looked like prime Shaq out there tonight. Holy crap! Like
Right.
I know a lot of Pistons fans aren't too familiar with him, and I know some national media they're not too familiar with him. But you got to put some respect on his name. He is up. He's just a hooper out there. Like 17 and 11 tonight, man.
No, yeah, he had 19 points, 17 rebounds.
All right, you're doing
Uh,
something.
yeah, it was Barnes had 21 and 8, and then Bagley had 19 and 8. So very good production from their front court, something that they haven't had in a while. Some of it because of injury, some of it because of development things, right? With Bagley, and we'll get into that as well. But somebody on the Pistons who it's very clear what you guys are doing. You guys are definitely tanking. Do you feel like that's a route that the Kings should take, knowing that even before the show, I told you that this team has 5.5 good players? Is that something that you would want, or would you be more of a buyer at the trade deadline, new GM, and kind of push for this establishment of a winning culture? Because the Kings haven't had that in 15 years. And even though Fox is young in age, this would be the 4th straight year that he missed the playoffs while his counterparts like Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell have already made such huge impacts. And that's what I try to tell people. It's like, hey, man, it doesn't matter how old is he. It matters how long he's been in the league. And that starts to accumulate over time, right? Like this frustration of not making the playoffs, not building and putting the best players around a guy like De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, I mean, I was you guys have like Harrison Barnes, who I like, but I think the contract's a little bit too big.
Right.
De'Aaron Fox, you extended him, right?
Yeah, so he got the
So
max
he's
deal. So everybody
Buddy
from the
Hield's
20 everybody from the 2017 class are essentially like all the good ones are on max deals.
okay. So you got Buddy Hield. I think he's on a big contract as
Yep.
well, if memory serves. So I mean, you have a lot of money in like I feel like Buddy Hield and De'Aaron Fox is an okay backcourt. It
Okay.
could be better,
No
but I
doubt.
think you guys need a bench. You just don't have a bench. Like I was looking at one point of the game. I think our bench was up like 30 points to 2 against yours, and I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
wow, like they just don't have a bench at all. I don't know if you could maybe facilitate a trade at the deadline. Maybe you look at guys that could bring some scoring depth to that. I don't really know.
Is there anybody on
Uh,
the Pistons that you guys would be willing to give up for cheap?
you'd probably see Wayne Ellington. He's probably going to be gone.
Okay.
Um, I don't really know if the Kings would want him personally. I
Yep.
mean, that's minimum, but I don't really know like who
What
we
type of
could get back.
contract is he on?
1 year vets minimum.
Okay.
Minimum.
Okay. Is
It's a lot
Jeremy
of
Grant
right.
off?
What's up?
Is Jeremy Grant off of the table, or is he something that the Pistons would entertain?
I feel like he's off the table.
Okay.
I mean, maybe DeLon Wright, just because the Pistons have so many point guards. I mean, we went from last year to having like no like point guard depth. Now we have like three. We got like Killian Hayes, Saban Lee, and Dennis Smith Jr. So DeLon Wright, I don't know if that's something the Kings would be interested in. I know he's on a bigger contract, but I mean, uh, I think he had a stretch of games where he was like putting up like 18 points and 7 assists and shooting like 40% from three.
Yeah, no, he's nice. He's solid. He's solid. So, talk about Lee real fast. What school did he go to?
He went to Vanderbilt
Okay.
under Jerry Stackhouse.
Okay.
So I think the main reason why he's so good is Jerry Stackhouse was a G League coach
Yep.
when Dwayne Casey was in Toronto. So the transition is probably just seamless for him. I mean, they've run a lot of NBA action at Vanderbilt. So even Saban Lee said in a press conference, like, they pretty much run the same thing. That's why it's so easy for me.
And is he an older rookie, or how long did he
21.
Okay. So, did you guys draft him, or was he undrafted?
We made a trade with Utah. We acquired Tony Bradley. He was a second round pick. I think he was 38th overall.
Yeah.
So we got him in the second round for that.
So you drafted 2 point guards at 7 and 40, or?
Yeah, 38, 7 and 38.
Wow. And has he just been playing lately as of late? Because I didn't really hear about him.
Yeah, he's on a two-way contract. So
so he's your Ramsey for the Kings, who's playing at the bubble right now.
Yeah, and we don't have a G League team this year, so since we kind of bought it from Phoenix and we're not affiliated with their old G League team, so all our two-way guys are with us, so we can't send them down to the bubble.
Especially now that Blake is out until you either buy him out or trade him. Are you guys going to buy him out, or do you think there's a potential suitor out there?
I don't see a suitor. I think a buyout is probably going to happen. I hope he gives some money back personally because $39 million next year.
Okay, so people on from the outside in, there are a few Kings fans, and I'm not one of them, who still think that Blake has that athletic upside, or he's still that great of a player. But I'm like, to me, he's a $39 million role player now in today's NBA. Do you feel like he's mailing it in because he's in Detroit, or is his athleticism just shot because of all the injuries?
Oh, to me, he's a glorified Kevin Love right now.
Okay.
I don't know if you watched that Buck series. He literally played on a torn meniscus. He looked like Stone Cold with the leg brace out there.
Yeah.
He was just stubborn. He wanted to play. I mean, and he did so much damage that he re-injured it again last year. So he's had two knee surgeries in like a 2-year span, and he just can't really move. His mobility's bad.
Yep.
He can't even get in when he does get into the paint, it's just the speed's gone, the athleticism's gone. He's just a stretch four at the end of the day.
Has his playmaking gotten better over time, and is his 3-point shot viable enough to have him as a starter, or is he more of I'm going to bring him off the bench and hopefully that he can be the go-to guy to score? What do you think is the best role for him right now at this stage of his career?
I mean, if we're talking about contenders, obviously off the bench.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe you have a fringe playoff team that's really close. I guess you could start him. His passing is still really great. He's still a really good facilitator. That hasn't dropped at all. His 3-point shooting is kind of sometimes it's really great, sometimes it's not. There was a Cleveland game this year where he hit 9 threes. Shit. And then he didn't make a three for the rest of the game, and we lost in overtime to the Cavs. I think he had 30 points at halftime, and then he just dropped off.
Okay. And is Mikhailia, is he off the table, or is he somebody that y'all be willing to trade?
I get bashed for it from Pistons fans. I would trade him.
Okay.
Just because he's a little bit older. I don't know. His confidence is kind of hit or miss because Wayne Ellington's in front of him. And like I said, he can get really hot, but he has games where he just doesn't hit a 3-pointer. He'll go 0 for 9 and have 4 points.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's another guy. I didn't even think about that because I've been getting Pistons fans get pissed off at me when I say trade DeLon Wright because I think he's a piece at 28 years old, or trade Svi Mykhailiuk.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that's another guy you guys could probably get for cheap.
Right, right. I'm looking at your rookie class. I mean, Stewart, I love the guy's a grinder. Maybe a younger Rashawn Holmes, right where he gave the Kings a little bit of fits in terms of always being physical. The Kings aren't very physical, as you probably noted, and that's a
Yeah.
huge reason why they were on a nine game winning streak, a 9 game losing streak, is because they're so soft. And when you have a guy, a beast like that, they're gonna have trouble. But tonight, I mean, it just seemed like the Kings had a sense of urgency early, and then their lack of not having Tyrese off the bench just showed. They only had 2 points, and you guys took advantage, and that's what really gained the momentum to give you guys that lead. Because obviously, when you put in Kojo, who is a fringe, and I'm being generous, fringe NBA player, as you saw today, just
Yeah.
I tweeted this out. I was like, this dude forgot how to play basketball. Seriously, like when he got to the Kings, he forgot what fundamental defense is. And it's been really bad to watch. And I feel bad to some extent. But at the same time, the guy's getting paid 12 to 13 mil per season.
Wow.
So for a guy who gave up 2 3-point fouls to a rookie last game against the Knicks and Emmanuel quickly, and tonight when he just ran over, I forget who it was, like just chasing him, and you're just like, dude, what are you doing? Like you're supposed to be a good defender. You can't even do that. You for sure are not producing on the offensive end. I mean, I hurt my hip last night playing basketball, and I can still shoot better than, like, legitimately shoot better than him. So that's what I don't understand is like why, and that's what I tell Kings fans. I understand their frustrations, but what do you expect when you have such a bad player? Like, imagine if you would replace that with DeLon Wright, right? And it'd be so much different. Like your team would
Oh,
instantly be better. A viable guard who can just do a lot, right?
yeah. I mean, that's a former Toronto Raptor. I mean, Casey has some ties to him, so I don't really know. I mean, I was kind of surprised to see how much he actually was on as a contract. Because I was like looking at like just your guys' books because I was like, man, I would do like a Blake for Buddy swap, like straight up
Yeah,
because I'm sick of him shitting on the Pistons
yeah,
personally.
yeah.
Every time we play him,
Right.
that I think it was a travel 3-pointer you guys won last year,
Last year
and
that
then
was nuts.
that tip and dunk. I was like, that's when my stream went out. I just turned it off. I was like, man, this is over. This is over,
And then
man.
they reversed it.
Oh, they did. I
Yeah,
was
so
like,
that
damn.
so that foul that was an and one, they ended up saying it was an offensive foul on Buddy. So that was
Uh,
really ridiculous. That was really
yeah.
ridiculous. But would you guys do like a Bay and Blake for Buddy?
Oh, probably not. I think Bay's a future piece for us. I mean, you seen him tonight.
He's nice, bro. He's nice. I'm trying to like I'm trying to get something out of it, man.
Oh man, I mean, I'll throw Mason in there if you want him.
Oh, that's a guy that I love, Mason Plumlee, right? And
Yeah.
that's the big question for me because the Kings need a backup five. So when Rashawn Holmes goes to the bench, you see a huge drastic drop off. That's either Hassan Whiteside, who's no longer going to probably play for the Kings, and or Marvin Bagley at the five, which is terrible because he can't guard his own shadow. But someone like Plumlee, who I love, who I've loved for a long time, is that somebody that they'd be willing to trade right now? And how much would it take to get somebody like that?
You know, I've heard whispers about the Pistons, taking offers. I don't really know if he's off the table or not, but cool thing about his contract is the last year isn't guaranteed. So that's good. I mean, $8 million, a lot of Pistons fans want him out. They don't like him. They want to just feed Isaiah Stewart all the minutes and have Jahlil Okafor come back when he's after surgery and after he's done with rehab. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the block personally. If the trade offer is right, I think he'd be perfect for you guys. He's a really
Yeah,
good facilitator. Um, he'll try on defense. I mean, he'll probably get dunked on most of the time, but at
yeah,
least he tries.
yeah. No, yeah. He plays hard. He's a good veteran. How long is his contract?
3 years.
So it's 2 years, and the last year is non-guaranteed.
Yep.
So it's this year, next season, and after that is a non-guaranteed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you guys signed him to that, or was that already from his previous deal in Denver?
We signed him to that. Plus, if we do trade him, he's got a trade kicker worth around 2 million. So we'll kind of bite the bullet from just trading him on top of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, the offer's going to have to be good because I think we're pretty close to the cap with everything we've done, with waiving and stretching so many people
Yeah.
this offseason, which was just absolutely insane.
Okay. So there isn't anybody on this roster from the Kings that you saw that would make the Pistons bite the bullet. I mean, are you looking for I guess the question is, he's not worth the first, right? So he must be worth multiple seconds.
I mean, any kind of draft capital, honestly. I mean,
Okay.
I know Troy Weaver would probably take a gamble on Marvin Bagley. That's just kind of like his MO lately, is just taking a gamble on young players. Like you mentioned, Josh Jackson, Dennis Smith Jr., I mean, Jahlil Okafor. I mean, those are all like high lottery picks. Like
Would
you
you trade
probably,
Sadiq Bey for Bagley?
no, no. I really like Sadiq, man. I mean, oh man, I would be upset because we traded 4 second-round picks and Luke Kennard to the Clippers for that
Yeah.
draft pick that turned into Sadiq Bey.
What number
So
was that?
the 19th pick, I believe.
So it was Kennard and 4 seconds
Yeah,
to
to the
get
Clippers. It
19.
was. Yeah, I think it was a three-team trade because the Nets had the 19th pick, so they got. I want to say Landry Shamet went. So I don't even know where the hell he went. I think he went to Brooklyn.
He did. He
Uh,
did. He did. Yeah. Okay, so that was a
and
3-team trade. Right on.
Yeah, and the reason why we traded Luke Kennard was because of his agent, who has the same agent as Tyrese Halliburton. We didn't want to give him the $15
Oh.
million. That's why we made the trade.
So talk about that. So you were the one that told me about him not wanting to work out for the Pistons and the Knicks, right?
Yeah, he not so much Tyrese. It was just his agent because his agent was trying to get Luke that extension. Like he was trying to get him around $15 million. And I love Luke Kennard, but I'm sorry, he's not worth 15 million. He can't even get off the Clippers bench right now.
Yeah.
And he had knee tendonitis all year. He's had knee tendonitis. He's had injuries. He's an injury-prone player. Good
Right.
shooter, but he can't stay on the floor.
And would you say that they chose Mikhaila over him, or was it more of a money thing?
It was more of a money thing to me. I think Spee, was always going to be on the roster regardless of what happened with Luke.
Okay.
I mean, some fans will say Spee Luke's better than Luke Kennard, which is absolutely just a false statement. They're
Right.
not even
Right.
like Luke Kennard is a playmaker, 40%
Yep.
shooter, like from three. Speed's nice, but he's not like Luke Kennard nice.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I mean, did the Clippers end up giving them the $15 million?
Yeah, I think he signed for 16 million, like a 4-year deal.
Shit, he got it.
Yeah, yeah.
He got that, and he doesn't even play that much right now, does he?
He barely plays. Like I don't really understand the thought process that for them. I mean, they're in a weird situation, like cap space wise and draft pick wise. Like got
So,
rumblings that Kawhi might leave and all that shit. And man,
so yeah. I
it's
mean,
gonna be
so
rough.
what happens when your rookie comes back and there's Dennis Smith Jr. playing? Is there, I mean, is there enough playing time to get to see enough from Dennis?
I don't know, man. Like we'll probably know in the next 2 weeks if he's gonna come back or not.
Right.
I personally would sit him out just for the rest of the year. I don't
Okay.
want to like risk him getting injured even more because he just did the rehab. He didn't have surgery like I thought he was going to have.
Right.
And he looked really uncomfortable in those 7 games that he did play. He's not used to playing, and that's what he did with Mason and Blake. Like I told you when we were like messaging each other,
Yeah.
I'm like, he's not an off-ball point guard. Like if they wanted an off-ball point guard, they should have drafted Tyrese.
Tyrese.
But with the agent things, Troy was just like, fine, I'll draft someone else.
Damn, that's just it just boggles my mind because this is like the Steph Curry right thing all over again, where
Yeah.
he didn't want to play for Golden State, but they said, "Nah, you have no choice. You're coming in." That's the thing. Like rookies have no choice, and if you have the right scouting department in place and you did your due diligence during that process, no reason why you shouldn't draft a player you actually want. So I'm not saying he was the one they wanted, and maybe they did want Killian, but that's the thing to me. It's like, if that's the process and you want a certain player, take the damn player. Like, this isn't the NFL where guys are gonna hold out. Like, no, like they're forced to play.
Yeah, I mean, like my point guard bracket, like NBA ready point guards, it was like Tyrese Halliburton and Cole Anthony. Those were the two that I thought that could make an impact right away. Projects, I thought Killian would be a project. I still think that. I think he's going to take a couple of years to, really learn the game, understand, the NBA speed from playing in Europe. Like, the kid's got loads of potential. Like, defensively, I was surprised.
Yeah.
Literally saw him lock down Bradley Beal like 5 straight times. And I was like, damn, all right.
Really?
Yeah, like he's a good defender. I don't think a lot of people give him credit for his defense, but I mean, he very rarely gets beat on the weak side. Like, he's just moves his feet, strong, like 6'5", 200 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, good frame on him.
Does he remind you of Frank Ntilikina a little bit on the defensive end?
No, because Frank is a little bit more aggressive.
Okay.
He's very patient. Like, a player he does remind me of is Goran Dragic a little bit.
Defensively or just offensively?
Just like all-around player. Like, I feel like Goran Dragic is a good comparison for him. I know some people were comparing him to James Harden just because of the step back. Like,
yeah,
that just annoyed the hell out of me. I was just like, just because he has a step back and he shoots left, like, stop it.
Yeah, it's always fun when they want to compare the 6'11" small forward by definition in college, but in reality they're a 4 in the NBA. Like, oh, well, he's the next Kevin Durant, or he's the next Brandon Ingram, or he's the next. It's just like, bro, just because they have the same type of physical traits, but if they don't have the same skill set, then who cares, man? Like, I get it. It's fun to say, but the odds of Killian Hayes, no disrespect, of being the next James Harden is slight to none. Not to say that he can't be a great player in his own right, but it's just tough to see stuff like that. Do you get a lot of crazy stuff from like Pistons fans?
Oh my God, yeah. So when we drafted Isaiah Stewart, not even 5 minutes, I get about like probably 20 messages.
Yeah.
He's the next Ben Wallace. I was like, oh my God, no, like.
So it's not just Kings fans.
He probably has the worst nickname of all time too.
What's his nickname?
Beef Stew.
Oh my gosh, no way.
Yeah, that's what they call him, Beef Stew.
Oh my God. Beef Stew. I'm never forgetting that. So Beef Stew. Definitely not Ben Wallace. He doesn't defend the rim like Ben Wallace. Like,
he's not picking up people full court either.
That's such a Kings fan thing to say. Like, they would say that. Like, no disrespect to my boy Harry Giles. Harry Giles is like Chris Webber-esque, and I'm like, what?
No.
It's just, I mean, he could have been without those 3 major knee injuries before the age of 19. He was the number 1 player in the nation. But anytime you have 3 major knee surgeries by the time you're 19, that takes a toll on you. I don't care who you are. That takes a toll on you, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was actually a guy I wanted in free agency as Harry Giles.
And y'all could have had him, too, for cheap.
Yeah. Cheap. I can understand why we spent so much money and why we were attracting centers, because after Andre left, I mean, we just didn't. We still have the same problem now. If Mason Plumlee doesn't rebound, that's why Rashawn Holmes had such a good game. Mason Plumlee's trying to get the rebound. Everyone else is ready to run on the fast break, and there's just no one's boxing out, no one's helping out, no one's crashing the glass.
Sounds like the Kings.
We still have the same issue with that.
So that's a hot name that you just mentioned, Andre Drummond. You probably have the best insight on him. Lots of Kings fans love him. I keep telling Kings fans that he's a type of player that will stat your box score but not impact winning. And he's a type of player that, in my opinion, you should play 20 to 25 minutes. Simplify his role. He can't be your first, second, or third best player, right? He needs to be 4th, 5th. If that happens, he becomes a really good player. It's all about role optimization with him and a lot of players, honestly. Do you agree with that assessment, or what did you see in his time in Detroit and now his time now in Cleveland?
I think his time in Detroit, the organization failed to put a good point guard around him.
Okay.
The best point guard he had was, in my opinion, Brandon Jennings. No disrespect to Reggie Jackson, but I thought Brandon Jennings was a way better point guard than Reggie Jackson because he had tons of injuries, but he never really had a foundation around him for him to be successful. He was always a first or second option with very limited post moves.
Yep. And still very limited.
His problem is not the physical part of the game. It's the mental part of the game.
Exactly.
He will let a referee decide how he plays. If he's not getting a foul call, he's disinterested. He'll just check out mentally. But when he is locked in, he can play with some of the best centers in the NBA.
When is a key word, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I can give you games where he was just straight locked in, like not making the All-Star game in Boston, drops like 30 points and 20 rebounds on him. Like, he's got all the physical tools. It's just the mental part of his game and trying to buy in, find his role. He's just never really had that. Like, I don't blame Cleveland for wanting Jared Allen. Jared Allen's a really nice young piece. And he's probably going to come at a cheaper price point when they, re-sign him. Andre Drummond at $28 million, that's a hard pill to swallow. I mean, I personally see him going to Dallas. That's just my gut feeling.
Buy out or trade?
I think for him to go to Dallas, they would have to trade James Johnson because those two have some beef. I don't know if you know about that, but
no. What happened there?
So when James Johnson was in Toronto, he postered Andre really bad.
Oh, shit.
Next play comes down, Andre Drummond elbows him in the throat, and that's one guy you don't want to mess with. Like,
no, I know.
I don't know if Kings fans know, but that guy's just like
jiu-jitsu.
Black belt, grew up in a dojo. Like, don't mess with that motherfucker. Like, he's crazy.
And Drummond was like, did Drummond want all the smoke or what?
Yeah, he wanted all the smoke. I was like, man, that's not one guy you mess with. And he did it again. I can't remember what team he was on. It might have been, I can't even remember. It might have been Minnesota, if I remember correctly. But I was just like, man, you don't want to mess with that guy. So James Johnson would probably have to be traded from Dallas for that to work. Maybe they, throw Tim Hardaway Jr. to make the salaries work or something like that. I don't know.
So Tim John, okay. And he's an expiring deal. That does make sense. Especially with so many question marks, right, with KP.
Yeah.
Okay, so as a Pistons fan, would you want to trade for KP?
No.
Okay.
No, I see the red flags. I see the red flags all over him. I think he's a distraction off the court. A buddy of mine works at a sports agency, and he was telling me all the, horror stories in New York of how big of a headache he was just to handle. I think the report came out a couple days ago or today that he's kind of like a drama queen just to handle on and off the court.
It did.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised.
How much of that is true? I'm sure some of it is, and how much of it is just pushing this false narrative to try and downgrade the value for a trade against the Pistons? Because we know this is the agent-driven league. And a lot of that shit gets spread like wildfire. And a lot of the time, half of it isn't true, right? Because there's always two sides to the story.
I think some of it's true, but I feel like the way they're blowing it out of proportion is so Dallas can, try to trade him. And teams that are calling about him, maybe they get away with less than offering a first-round pick, which I don't think that'll happen with Mark Cuban. He'll probably want maximum value for a guy like that, but
you can't because he's been banged up, and as you said, he's a drama queen, and it's just it's difficult to give up a first round pick for a guy who we don't know if he's going to be available or not. And that's the thing I tell Kings fans. I'm like, yeah, I would love to have Porzingis the player, but is Porzingis going to play? Is he taking nights off? Because if you give up all this draft capital and some good players, it does the Kings no good to make that playoff push if he's not going to play.
Nah, I feel like you guys need like another like score
Yep.
for you guys to just like this someone to take over, like a Jordan Clarkson type, you know? Just someone to come off the bench, lead that second unit. I don't know if Tyrese is ready for that role yet.
Yep.
I feel like he will be eventually, but I don't know if he's ready for it. I feel like you kind of just need like that alpha to just lead the second unit because not having a bench really hurts you.
No doubt. And I, I want to run this question by you. If you are Monte McNair, would you give up this year's unprotected pick, 2021, 2023, and 2024? Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley, and Tyrese. Just say Tyrese is like the main component for Bradley Beal.
Ooh, that's a lot.
But is it though? Because then those picks will probably be in the late like 18 to 20s. Is Bradley Beal good enough to combine with De'Aaron Fox now in his prime at 27, averaging 30 plus a game? Like that's the guy you just described to me from a guy on the outside looking in. Like a guy who can play make, a guy who can. His defense isn't great, but it's not as bad as everybody says it is.
I would switch to 2021 and do a 2022 pick
Okay.
because this draft has a lot of wings. And I feel like even if you guys don't make the playoffs, you're still going to get a quality player. Like, worst case scenario, you're still going to get a good quality player. I mean, like, as a Piston fan, I'm salivating at, like, Cade Cunningham. Like, I want it, but I know we're not going to win the lottery because we always get screwed anyways.
Would you
But
trade Grant for our unprotected first round pick this year?
I'd have to see where you guys are at. You're probably, like, fifth currently, aren't you?
Yeah, like fifth, sixth. So okay, so say it's a top 10 pick. Would you give up Grant for that?
It's got to be unprotected.
No,
Like,
no, yeah. So if it's
yeah,
anywhere that lands from 1 to 10, would you give it up for a Grant?
I would, personally.
From the Pistons' perspective?
From the Pistons' perspective, I feel like if a team in the lottery offered them a first round draft pick this year, they would do it.
Okay, that's
It
fair.
would it would be really hard not to because, like I said, this draft is just so loaded. I mean, you have like Evan Mobley, Cade Cunningham, Kaminga is
I
looking like a
love Kaminga.
stud.
I love
Like
Kaminga. He's my favorite player in this
Kaminga,
draft.
he's looking great. I mean, I still like Jalen Green, even though he's struggling. I
Yep.
think he'll pick it up. I mean, like, if you guys get Jalen Green, it's over. Like,
Okay.
that would probably solve, like, I feel like
But then
Jalen Green.
but then it'd probably be like Killian Hayes, where it's gonna take him 3 years to really make an impact, though. And that's the thing. Now you continue to waste years on De'Aaron Fox's contract, and that's why I hate the idea of just tanking for these kids. Look at Marvin Bagley. So many of some of the experts, right, would say, well, he's one of the most NBA ready. He's ready to come in and give you the blah blah blah. I'm like, he was one of the most unready players, and that's the thing. It's a gamble in itself. So to me,
Yeah.
it's like, why wouldn't I take a gamble, give up all this draft capital, give up all my assets for a player who, yes, he's on a year and a half deal, but for a player who I know is a superstar. That makes sense. Just look at the Celtics, for example. Best example there is. Yes, they love Jaylen Brown. Yes, they love Jason Tatum. But what would have that team look like with Kawhi Leonard there if they would have given up Jalen for that? Things changed drastically there.
Yeah, I think Kawhi impacts winning 100%. And, with like the Bradley Beal thing, if they were still losing, I think they would probably listen to that offer that you just had. But, since they've been, on a winning streak, and I think they're like on a 6-game winning streak last time I checked. I mean, they're still probably one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now. But I mean, Bradley Beal to me would probably be unrealistic because their GM is just, he's a tease. Like he's like, yeah, I might trade Bradley Beal, I might not. He just kind of like waves it around and like, teams call and then he just wants too much. He wants like 4 first round picks.
Yeah,
Which,
and I feel like both you and I, from fans' perspective, from both these organizations, we're kind of in the same boat where these organizations haven't had much success. And I've said this, E-Man have said this, and it's the mystery of losing fan bases like ours who love the mystery of a player, right? Like a potential top 10 pick. rather than seeing, oh shit, there's a star right in front of me. So Celtics fans are like, oh, hell no, I'm not trading Jaylen Brown, who's a future he's now a future All-Star. It took him 4 or 5 years to get there. And that's my point. Like, why wouldn't you want to win now? Expedite the process. Like, will Jaylen Brown ever be as good as Kawhi Leonard? And even though I love Tyrese, and I think Tyrese will be an All-Star, will he ever be as good as Bradley Beal? Now, it's not fair to say because they're completely different players, but it's fair in the sense that will he ever be as good and make that much of an impact like a Bradley Beal has in the league, where he's only 27 and arguably could still get better, or at the very least not get worse for the next 5 years, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, if the Kings are dead set on making the playoffs and you just make a win now move, like the Pistons did with Blake Griffin, then yeah, you pull the trigger on it. Like, if there's someone available at the deadline, just pull the trigger. You never really know. You have to take risk to try to make the playoffs. And if you want to just keep accumulating draft picks, I mean, that's fine and all, but at some point you're gonna have to, have your core in place and make a move. You just can't keep rebuilding and rebuilding.
Sounds
and
like
recycling.
The Timberwolves.
And just recycling the same, like, different guys.
Right.
Like, I'm happy the Pistons are rebuilding. I mean, it's been a half-ass rebuild for 13 years. They've never fully committed to it.
But even with all the new rules in place...
Did I lose you?
No. Do you see me?
I think good.
You see me?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so
I see you.
Even with all the new rules in place, just because you get the top 3 worst records, as we've seen with the Knicks, that doesn't guarantee you a top 3 pick. So that's where I get really frustrated with a lot of fans. It's like, all you're doing is you're building losers. Like, you're building this atmosphere where free agents will first of all, they don't want to come to Sac because it's a smaller city. But then when you add on top all the losing, then they really don't want to come. And that's what I tell people. It's like winning. When you make the playoffs and you taste some success, that could be a domino effect to where it leads to better things. The same way the Blazers, smaller market, Oklahoma City Thunder, smaller market, those type of teams, they didn't win a championship. But I would rather be them and make playoff runs than to be a shitty organization.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at the contracts you guys have, they're outrageous.
Yeah.
Like $13 million for Corey Joseph, that's ridiculous.
That was Lottie Divac, yeah, but so shout out to his agent.
I don't see the value there. I mean,
there is no value with Corey Joseph.
You could probably find a guy in the G League that's a better player right now.
I mean, there's about 5 better players on your team. Off your bench. So, I mean, I'm going to name them off. Stewart, Lee for sure would bust his ass. Mikhail's better. Definitely Josh Jackson's better. Magruder is about the same. Magruder. Who's the other guy you got? Servades, or what's his name?
Davidas Servades.
Yeah. Is he any good?
I don't know, man. Like, we haven't seen him play at all. That's actually, I could get into that story if you want to
do something
like dysfunctional within our front office.
Okay. What happened?
So we have a vice president, Arntellum.
Yep.
And his son is an agent, right? And his son pitched to his dad, "Hey, Dad, I got this European prospect. He's the next Luke Kennard." And Bobo is still on the board in the 2019 draft, right?
Okay.
And we draft this kid, and he goes over to Lithuania, and he puts up lesser stats than LeAngelo Ball did in a worse league. Like, no disrespect to him. Like, I think he's just like a really raw prospect, but he's just not ready. Like, we signed him to like a 3-year contract, and it's like non-guaranteed. He plays shooting guard. He's like a 6'9" shooting guard.
Wow. Can he shoot?
A little bit. It's not consistent.
So do you think Bobo would have been the better guy?
Oh, absolutely. At the time, when we had Tony Snell as our wing and Sekou Doumbouya, like, yeah, absolutely.
So that's a guy that I want to ask you about in Doumbouya. He's one of these guys where I'm like, you see all the physical traits, And it goes back to what I'm saying. It's like they're prospects, man, and it's going to take them so long to actually make a winning impact. What have you seen from him that gives you any type of insurance that he's going to be like that borderline, really good player, not necessarily an all-star, but at what point, at what stage of his career do you foresee that happening?
A lot of Pistons fans are already casting him off as a bust.
There you go. That's my
They're
point.
they're calling him Stanley Johnson 2.0.
There you
Who,
go.
we drafted really high. I don't know if I think he's in Toronto now.
Yeah.
But
I love Stanley coming out, but they're prospects, bro, and
yeah, he's a guy to me where the way the Pistons run their offense, they run a lot of half court stuff right now.
Yep.
And for me, he just can't thrive under that. He's a guy that loves to run the floor. And when you run half court stuff, he doesn't really have the opportunity to run. He needs just like a fast point. Like I was telling my buddy last night, I said he'd be perfect in Sacramento with Fox because he would run the floor hard. He can play either the 3 or the 4, really physical, 6'9", like 240. Can shoot the ball a little bit, really good at cutting to the basket. Just picked up a basketball like at 15 years old. Like, he compares to Pascal Siakam. He's just a really interesting prospect. But the way the Pistons are using him right now, I just don't agree with it. Like, standing in the corner, he looks lost out there half of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, he's bumping into teammates. He doesn't know what to do because he's not comfortable playing in a half-court set.
Now, does he have high IQ, though?
He does.
Okay.
I mean, I think probably his debut against the Clippers. I mean, he was locking down Kawhi Leonard, stealing the ball from him. I think he had like 13 points in his debut last year. I mean, you could look up highlights of him when he was playing in France. I mean, like he was the best player there. I mean, he was cooking, like straight up. Like I was really excited. I was surprised he fell to 15. I thought he was a top 10 pick in 2019 all day. Like I wanted Kevin Porter Jr. at the time. Like I did not expect him to fall to 15.
What do you think it would take someone like the Kings to trade for him? What type of compensation?
Probably a first, honestly, because I think they're still high in him, and there's a lot of untapped potential there. Like I said, like De'Aaron Fox and Halliburton with him running out, like that would be a lot of fun. You would probably see why so many fans were happy when we got him because he's a rim runner, like straight up, like he posterized Tristan
Can
Thompson.
He guard people though?
What's that?
Can he guard people?
Oh yeah, he's very switchable. He could probably guard 1 through 4.
Okay. Well, that's getting me excited, but again, he sounds like a raw prospect.
Yeah, he's raw. Like I said, he probably needs another 2 to 3 years until you know what he is. And I don't really know if the Kings are willing to invest into him.
Sounds like they are because it sounds like they're low-key tanking. So he'd be a guy. OG Owen says, we're talking about Doumbouya right now. Sounds like a nice prospect, but I'm tired of prospects, man. I want guys who are good. And when I look at your roster, what's his name? We were talking about him earlier. Your guard. DeLon Wright. That's someone who I know is good. Like he's someone that can make an impact as that Koja replacement. Him, Tyrese, Buddy, and Fox sounds like a really nice 4-game tandem there. So that's what I tell people. It's like, man, like that's what you need off your bench. Like good players who at times they're not starters. Although he's very like on most teams he'd start. On the good ones he wouldn't. But still, like he's a borderline starter. And that's what you want. Like, that's what you are looking for if you're a good team. And obviously the Kings aren't yet because with that starting 5 that you saw today, they are now 13-12. So, again, they're a 500 team with that team. But during this stretch that they lost 9 games in a row, a lot of these players, Harrison Barnes missed 4 games, Rashawn missed 3 games. That's where y'all start seeing, like, okay, this team isn't very deep, and this team needs talent, but a lot of fans let their emotions get in the way. Oh, they just suck. No, they don't suck. It just happens that they're not very good. And when they're all clicking, they are very, because they can be anybody.
Yeah, I could kind of see the standpoint where fans think that you're stuck in the middle because of the contracts you have.
Yeah.
Because the contracts just are really big. I mean, they're really big. Like, you could probably reconstruct the roster, like retool it a little bit to get where you actually have a bench where it's more balanced. Because, like, most of your money is in the backcourt.
No.
That's just my like 2 cents, like
Yeah.
looking into the Kings roster. I mean, like you guys have a lot of nice players. Like I love De'Aaron Fox. Been really high on him. Like I probably would have drafted him over Lonzo Ball if I was the Lakers. Like
No
straight
doubt.
up. Like
No
no
doubt.
disrespect to Lonzo, but I think De'Aaron Fox is better.
I mean, he's definitely better now, but at that juncture in 17, did you think he was better coming out the draft?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I died on that hill alone. People called me crazy. They thought Fultz was going to be a like stud. They thought he was going to be the next Westbrook. You know how they do
Okay.
that of the comparisons. I
Okay.
mean, I like Jason Tatum. I didn't know that he would like take that leap
Me
into
neither.
like stardom, but
I liked him too, but not that much.
I mean, he's a nice player. Like I said, I probably would have drafted Fox if I would like top 3 easily.
Okay, so you saw that coming. Respect. Someone said Buddy and Kojo for Blake.
We would do it.
Yeah, for sure. In the heartbeat. In the heartbeat. The Kings would be stupid if they did that. I guess the only thing is, like you said, and to me that's a tanking move because you don't really get better, but you have him on the lesser contract where you bite the bullet for one less year, I'd say.
Yeah.
And then the Pistons obviously get a good older. He's not old. I mean, he's 28. I'm 28. I don't think I'm old, but in terms of NBA years, but I mean, for a shooter though that doesn't create that much contact, he's gonna last 5 years more shooting at a high clip. Because I mean,
Yeah.
shooters keep their bodies in tip-top form, and Buddy never misses games. Like that's a one thing. That's his best skill. Like he doesn't miss games. Like he doesn't get hurt.
I know I have him in my fantasy team. Like he's always ready. Like straight. Like he never misses a game. Like even like COVID protocol. He's like, yeah, he'd probably still suit up.
Yeah, he's ready to shoot the ball. He loves to shoot.
So one player I had a question about was
Okay.
Jabari Parker.
Okay.
That'd be a guy I'd actually trade for.
Who, the Pistons?
Yeah, I think they would be interested in him.
Okay. Well, he had a lot of good stuff coming into the camp. He was in shape, but in this stretch of I don't know how many months, 5 months, he got injured. He never played a game until I think a week and a half ago, and he literally looked like me, heavy-footed, a guy like me. Like it took me about 5 months since pandemic to touch a basketball again and play inside a gym, and that's what it is for I would say anybody who hasn't played. Like the guy looked extremely slow, fat, unathletic, and that's not the Jabari Parker that you were getting excited about. And I'm like, yeah, because I was like, damn, like Jabari Parker. But my gosh, we just saw a different human being out there, and it's normal. It's just normal human behavior. If you don't play, man, your rhythm and timing is gonna be off. Plain and simple.
Yeah, like Dennis Smith, like his first couple of games, man, he looked gassed. He was out of shape, but I mean, he probably had his best game as a Piston tonight. I mean, I think he dropped like 16 and 7, and like Knicks fans were telling me, "Oh, he's trash. He's the worst player in the league. He plays no defense.
Yeah.
We're actually a better defensive team with him on the floor than when he's on the bench." So all those narratives that they were pushing out, I mean, he just needed an opportunity, and that's why I mentioned Jabari Parker because we're just taking gambles on guys that were high lottery picks. I mean,
Yeah.
like Jahlil Okafor.
He can score. Like
Yeah.
Jabari can score. He just can't play a lick of defense.
Yeah, I mean, I would take a gamble on him personally
Yeah.
because
I mean, he's on an expiring deal. So that's a guy that would you trade Plumlee for Parker?
oh hell yeah, he's on an expiring and I get off the money. Yeah, I would do that. I'll do that in a heartbeat.
Would you trade Parker and Kojo, who has this year and next year, for Plumlee, just to match salaries? What's he getting paid a year?
Who?
Plumlee?
Plumlee? Only $8 million.
How much?
$8 million a year.
Oh, yeah. Then Jabari would be enough. Then I think Jabari's like at 6.5, 7. So that pretty much player for player. Ah man, that gets me excited. So if that's all it would take to get Plumlee, and it makes sense for you guys because it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna get rid of a contract and I'm gonna get an expiring deal, and that makes sense for us if we're buyers and we're trying to get better.
Yeah, I mean, you have a center that you could either start or bring off your bench, which I would probably to
Bring
me
off
he's
the
better off
bench.
the bench.
Yep.
We're just starting him right now until Isaiah Stewart's ready to take over that role, and I don't think he's ready yet. I think it's going to take him probably another year until he's going to be our starting center, or if we draft Evan Mobley, who knows?
So who's
But
your other center on this roster? That's it?
we have Jahlil Okafor.
Okay.
So I mean, he's kind of looked okay, but he looked out of shape coming into camp.
Okay. Well, I think that's going to do it. We've been on live for 55 minutes. We appreciate your time, brother, as always. Always
Sure.
fun talking Pistons basketball. Where can people find you? What type of projects and content are you guys producing in the next couple of weeks?
You know, I might have to dig into the draft a little bit personally
Okay.
because the season's kind of just like I'm like happy when we lose. So like a loss to me is a win right now because we
Okay.
got to catch up to Minnesota. Minnesota's just like trying to outthink us right now. They're like 7 wins, we're at 9 wins. They're trying to catch up.
I know. Minnesota's, and that's another example, right, guys? A team who's had so many picks, I've lost count, and they just have the same issues. Like, they either draft the wrong guys or it's going to take years for somebody to be impactful.
I mean, they have Cat and D'Lo, and they're still bad.
That's exactly.
I'm a Kings fan. Stay patient. Stay patient.
Yeah. What I would love to do is if the Kings do become sellers, and obviously and they tell us that they're going to tank. And I think you and I, since it sounds like you have hit on a few of these guys, I'd love to collaborate on both our channels, our platforms, and do like draft breakdowns. Would that be something that you'd be interested in doing?
Yeah, once I complete my notes. So far, I've only done maybe like 2 guys.
Yeah. I
Just
mean, me too. Yeah, like I haven't even started really looking into this class because I was so hyped about making the playoffs, but it just seems like they're on the way to tank and be sellers. So if that's the case, and I'm definitely I'm gonna be required to start, making some phone calls, talking to some scouts and stuff like that. So the only guys that I'm really confident in saying that they're going to be good, maybe not in year one, but Cade and Kuminga. Like Kuminga's real nice to me. I think if the kid can accept his role early on and just impact the game defensively with this type of size and physicality, then that's how you can affect winning like right off the bat. Like again, these kids have to learn that they're not going to be the best player coming into the NBA. It's just it's so dumb. Like I don't understand these coaches, coming up, and I get it, their jobs are to win games, but there needs to be this logic that these coaches, especially now with the G League, telling these kids, "Hey man, relax, do your job, know your role. Like you're not going to be a star coming into your situation right away."
Yeah. I mean, that's why I like Villanova so much. I mean,
Right.
you look at all the guys that come out of there. I mean, like Shady Bay, Josh Hart. I mean, they're quality players. I mean, they're not superstars. They know their role and they do it well.
No doubt. And I love Bay. I love Josh Hart. Those type of guys who are physical, they're tough, and they're ready to make an impact, man. I love Bay. Like, honestly, the fact that Tyrese slipped, never thought that would happen. But I was like between Neesmith, Bay, and Kyra. I mean, those were the 3 guys that I was looking at. And, yeah, he slipped, so you got to take him.
I'm happy Boston took Naismith.
Okay.
I'm so happy because I know the Pistons were really high on him. We worked him out multiple times. We didn't even work out Shadipe. We were just surprised. We're like, we're just going to take him. We're just going to take him.
Wow. And you didn't want Neesmith?
I saw his limitations.
Right.
Like, he's not a bad player.
Yeah.
But he just can't dribble. He's just like, he just kind of reminds me of a guy that, just curls off screens and just shoots threes at like a really high clip.
No doubt. No doubt, man. But hey, I appreciate you coming on, my man. Thank you so much. Again, y'all, for everybody that doesn't know Pistons Talk on Instagram, make sure y'all follow him. Great Pistons coverage, objective as always. The Kings win 110-107. The Pistons are now 9-24. That fits their narrative. They're trying to tank. We all know that. And the Kings are stuck in the middle at 13-20. Will the Kings be buyers or sellers? The deadline is only, 27 days away?
Mm-hmm. So, I'm going to say you guys are going to be sellers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure they'll be sellers. That's what my hunch tells me. But who knows, man? Say the Kings go on a 5-game win streak and then it gives us false hope again. I'd be happy. I'd be happy, man. But on behalf of the entire CK family, we thank you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.